They kicked her. Not because she started a fight, not because she was cruel. They kicked a 12-year-old girl in the shin, hard enough to leave a boot print, because of a single sentence she said out loud. "My mom's a Navy SEAL." That's all it took. One quiet truth from a lonely girl at a school PTA meeting, and for that, the room turned on her. They called her a liar, they mocked her to her face. And then, thinking no one was watching, a teenage boy drove his sneaker into her leg while his parents laughed. They looked at her and saw a victim. They saw a small girl with a folder clutched to her chest, alone in a hallway. They thought they were the predators. But then, the door at the end of the hall opened, and the woman they said didn't exist, the woman they claimed was a figment of a child's imagination, stepped into the light. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't break anything, she didn't even blink. But what she did next would change how that school and those bullies treated her daughter forever. Before we show you the moment a room full of arrogant Marines realized they had just messed with the wrong family, and how one mother reclaimed her daughter's name in total silence, I need you to stop. Drop a comment telling us where in the world you are watching from. Hit that subscribe button, because today's story isn't about revenge, it's about precision. The transport van's brakes squealed against the desert heat as it rolled to a stop outside the Advanced Combat Training Facility. But that was miles away. That was a different world. Here, in the multi-purpose room of Redwood Community School, the only sound was the faint, headache-inducing buzz of overhead fluorescent lights. 7 p.m. The air inside smelled of stale coffee, floor wax, and the distinct, nervous energy of parents who would rather be anywhere else. The room was bathed in a sterile glow. Plastic folding chairs were arranged in uneven rows. Parents filtered in, clutching oversized purses, dragging tired siblings, wearing name tags that clung to their blouses and polo shirts like badges of suburban rank. Someone was pouring lukewarm lemonade into styrofoam cups near the back. The atmosphere was a mix of boredom and thinly veiled judgment. Mia Calder sat in the far left corner. She was 12 years old, small for her age, with dark hair tied back into a braid so tight it pulled at her scalp. She sat with her legs crossed tightly at the ankles, her back straight, ignoring the way the cold metal chair dug into her spine. On her lap, she gripped a blue academic folder. She held it flat, knuckles white, as if it were the only thing keeping her anchored to the floor. As if, should she loosen her fingers, she might simply float away and disappear. Her dark brown eyes flicked to the double doors every few seconds. Once, twice, again. Still no sign of her mom. Mia hadn't eaten much since lunch, but her stomach wasn't empty. It was full of something heavier. Not dread exactly, but pressure, a crushing, silent pressure. Around her, other students beamed under the glow of parental pride. "My dad flew in just for this," a girl in the front row whispered loudly to her friend, flipping her hair. "My dad's uniform is cooler," a boy gestured toward his father, who was standing tall in camo, neatly pressed, and catching looks from the room. Mia glanced down at her folder. Everywhere she looked, someone had someone. She just had paper. But the real source of the tension in the room came from the center right table. Occupying that space was a cluster of adults who clearly knew each other too well. 4 parents. 2 of them were Marine dads, broad-chested, buzz cuts, with base ID tags still hanging from their belts like trophies. They took up space. They leaned back, legs spread, laughing at jokes that weren't funny. Their wives sat beside them, louder than they needed to be. They laughed at stories about base politics, deployments, and the incompetence of the school board. These were the kind of people who treated a PTA meeting like a command room. They were the hierarchy. One of the wives glanced over her shoulder. Her eyes landed on Mia. She nudged her friend. "Looks like someone got stood up again," she said. She didn't whisper. She wanted to be heard. The man next to her snorted into his coffee. Or, he chuckled, her mom is still in traffic coming from wherever imaginary parents drive in from. The table chuckled, a ripple of cruelty. Mia didn't respond. She didn't even look over. Her fingers just tightened slightly on the folder, crinkling the edge. At the front of the room, the teacher, Miss Caffrey, a well-meaning but chronically overwhelmed woman, clapped her hands together with an awkward, pleading smile. "Okay, everyone, if we could all take our seats, we'll begin our quarterly progress check-in. Students, thanks for joining us. You're all brave for sitting through this." Laughter rippled through the room, polite, easy. Mia didn't move. She sat straighter. Still no sign of her mom. But even so, she knew she was coming. She always came. Sometimes late, sometimes exhausted. But she never missed a mission. And to Mia, this was a mission. Miss Caffrey tried to keep things light. She started a roll call, not for attendance, but for introductions. "Let's remind everyone we're a team," she said, smiling too widely. "Students, please stand up and introduce your guests." Mia didn't feel like part of a team. She felt like a target. One by one, the kids stood. "I'm Ava. That's my mom. She's the PTA vice chair." Claps. "I'm Malik. My dad's back from deployment." Cheers. "I'm Nolan. My parents are over there with the coffee." Laughter. And then, the room turned its eyes to the corner. It was Mia's turn. Miss Caffrey looked her way, her expression softening with pity. "Mia, want to go ahead?" Mia stood slowly. She held the folder in one hand, pressing it against her side. She looked at the whiteboard, then at the teacher. Her voice didn't waver, but it wasn't loud either. It was the voice of a girl trying to hold on to her dignity. "My name is Mia Calder," she said. "My mom is running late. She's a Navy SEAL." The room went quiet, but it wasn't the respectful silence given to the other military kids. It was a pause, a beat of confusion. Then the atmosphere shifted. One of the Marine dads let out a chuckle under his breath. It sounded like a dry cough. One of the moms snorted, covering her mouth with a manicured hand. Miss Caffrey blinked, caught off guard. "Oh, well, I'm sure she'll be here soon." But the comment had already landed. The damage was done. "Wait," a dad muttered from the center table. "Did she say SEAL?" The Marine mom with the big earrings raised her eyebrows, leaning back in her chair. She spoke across the room, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. "Sweetheart, SEALs don't do PTA night, sorry." The dad next to her louder now. "She's been watching too many movies. Next, she'll say her mom parachuted into the gymnasium." Mia stood there. She didn't sit down immediately. She felt the heat rising in her cheeks, not from shame, but from frustration. Another woman leaned sideways, whispering loudly, "That's not a thing. There's no such thing as a female SEAL, right?" The loudest Marine dad shrugged his heavy shoulders. "If there is, they don't show up to middle school meetings in a Corolla." A ripple of soft laughter moved through their side of the room. It was contagious. Even some of the other kids were smirking now, not out of cruelty, but out of imitation. They followed their parents' tones like weather patterns. "She really is," Mia said quietly. She spoke more to the desk than to anyone. "She's on base. She's just training today." The Marine mom tilted her head mockingly. "Aw, honey, it's okay to admit you made it up. We won't be mad." Mia didn't flinch, but her shoulders edged inward. "Or," another voice said, "those wear camo too." Miss Caffrey, sensing the cruelty, tried to steer the conversation forward. She called on the next child. But the air had changed. The room felt smaller, hotter. Mia sat down. She stared straight ahead, gripping her folder harder than before. Not crying, not correcting, just waiting. Because her mother was a Navy SEAL, and she was coming. The meeting broke for a 10-minute stretch. It was a chance for parents to refill coffee and for kids to escape the boredom. Mia slipped out of the multi-purpose room. She walked into the long hallway that connected to the main classroom wing. It was dimmer here, quiet, smelling of old lockers and dust. She chose a bench halfway down the hall, near the lost and found bin, and a poster about anti-bullying that felt like an ironic decoration rather than a rule. She kept her head low, her braid tucked neatly over one shoulder. If she made herself small enough, maybe the attention would fade. It didn't. The murmur of adult conversation spilled into the corridor, and then the heavy footsteps. The same group of parents, the Marines and their spouses, stepped into the hall. They walked with the kind of loud confidence people use when they're sure no one will correct them. Trailing behind them were their teenage son and daughter. One of the dads spotted Mia immediately. "There's our storyteller," he announced. His wife smirked. "Still no mom? Maybe she swam here from Coronado and got tired halfway." The teenage boy, about 15, laughed under his breath as they approached. He pulled out his phone. Mia stood up. She intended to walk away, to go back to the classroom. But one of the moms shifted just enough to block her path. It was subtle, pretending to be accidental, but it was a wall. "Whoa there," she said, her tone sweet but blade sharp. The dad leaned down a little. He was a big man, imposing. "Let's hear it again," he said. "Say a mom's a SEAL. We all need the entertainment." Mia's voice was barely above a whisper. "She is." The teenage boy stepped forward. He flicked her folder with 2 fingers. Casual, careless. It tumbled from her hands. Papers fanned across the floor like feathers. Math quizzes, a permission slip, a progress report she'd been proud of. "Oops," the boy said. "Clumsy." Mia dropped to her knees immediately. She didn't ask for help. She began scooping the papers together with small, shaking hands. "SEALs don't fall apart this easy," the Marine pad muttered. Maybe moms actually supply staff, his wife chimed in. Kids exaggerate. Mia tried to stand, but the teenage daughter drifted into her path, smiling thinly. Say it again, she demanded. Say your mom's a Navy SEAL. I don't want to, Mia said quietly. The dad crouched just enough to meet her eye level. Because it's a lie, kid. It's not, Mia whispered. And then it happened. The teenage boy nudged her shin with his sneaker. It wasn't a tap, it was a kick. Light but pointed, aimed right at the bone. Mia winced, her breath catching in her throat. No staff noticed. The hallway was a blind spot. Doors closed, adults distracted. One of those rare corners where cruelty could grow without witnesses. Mia hugged her folder to her chest again and whispered, "Please stop, she really is." They laughed in her face. "Prove it," the boy said. Mia crouched on the cold tile, gathering the last of her scattered papers. The page with her science grade was creased now. She tried smoothing it with her palm. "Hey," the boy said again, voice low and taunting. "You going to cry or salute us?" She didn't look up. That's when he moved, a deliberate step forward. Not hard enough to knock her over, but brutal enough to hurt. His sneaker thudded into her shin with a calculated snap just above the ankle. Thud. Enough to leave a mark, enough to make a point. Mia's elbow struck the edge of the locker as she recoiled. One more page slipped from her hands. She gasped, sharp and sudden. She didn't scream, but the sound echoed anyway. The Marine dad grinned from a few feet away. If she was really a SEAL's kid, she'd take a hit better. The boy raised his phone, screen lit, camera pointed. Let's get it on video. Caption it, "When fake SEAL kids cry." Mia curled forward, turning away. She didn't shield herself. She didn't want to give them that satisfaction. She just wanted the night to end. Behind them, footsteps sounded. Quiet, steady. Someone noticed. The shift in the air. Not because of volume, but because the rhythm changed. The heavy door at the end of the hallway eased open. No one announced it. No one called attention to it. But the boy's phone slowly lowered. The teenage girl turned first. The parents didn't see. Not yet. But Mia did. A figure stood in the open doorway, framed by the dull hallway light. Motionless. Rowan Calder was home. Lieutenant Commander Rowan Calder didn't need to slam the door. She didn't need to shout. She just stepped inside. Her hair was still damp from a post-training rinse. She wore civilian workout gear, charcoal gray zip hoodie, navy joggers. No insignia, no boots. Just the kind of eyes that never stopped scanning a room. She saw her daughter first. Not the bruises, not the papers, not the phone. She saw Mia sitting against the lockers, lips pressed tight, one sleeve damp where she'd wiped her eyes. Rowan didn't blink. She didn't ask for context. She didn't need any. She moved, not rushed, not slow, and crouched next to Mia with a hand on her shoulder. "Hey," she said quietly. "You okay?" Mia nodded once, but her chin trembled. Rowan's voice dropped lower. "What happened?" "They said," Mia whispered, "you weren't real." Rowan's jaw set, but she didn't react. She glanced down. She saw the shoe mark on Moa's shin. She saw the scattered papers, the crumpled folder. "Are you hurt?" she asked. Mia gave the faintest nod. "Just my leg. It's okay." Rowan exhaled through her nose. Then she stood. Everything that followed happened in silence. She reached down, collected the creased pages with precise fingers, tapped them into a neat stack against her thigh, and slipped them carefully into Mia's folder. She handed it back to her daughter. Then she stepped forward. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even sharp. It was just controlled. "Which one of you," Rowan said, voice level and soft, "put hands on my daughter?" The hallway shrank. No one answered. The Marine dad stiffened, but didn't speak. The teenage boy tucked his phone behind his back like a sixth grader caught cheating. The Marine moms instinctively stepped behind their husbands. "I asked a question," Rowan said again. Not louder, not angrier, just clearer. "Which one of you touched my daughter?" Still silence. But now the pressure had changed. Rowan wasn't leaning forward. She wasn't posturing. She just stood tall, with her hands by her sides and her shoulders squared. And somehow, it was more threatening than yelling ever could have been. The boy swallowed. The Marine dad stepped forward half a pace, trying to recover the room. He was a big man, broad-shouldered. He puffed out his chest. "Ma'am," he began, "this is a misunderstanding. Nobody was trying to hurt your kid." Rowan didn't blink. "She has a boot mark on her shin." One of the moms jumped in, laughing awkwardly. "They were teasing. Kids' roughhouse. You know how it is." Rowan stepped forward. Not aggressively, just deliberately. "So you're saying the bruise is accidental?" "She was exaggerating," said the teen boy from behind his father. Rowan ignored him. She looked at the Marine dad again. "You're in uniform, retired sergeant major?" He nodded proudly. 23 years, Marine. She nodded once. "Then you should have known better." The second dad stepped in now. "Hold on, who even are you?" Rowan kept her voice flat. "I'm her mother." "We got that part," the wife scoffed. "But what's your angle? Showing up late and playing tough?" "What are you, Army Reserve?" another asked. "You don't get to bark orders at us." Rowan's jaw moved just slightly. She looked back at the teenage boy. "You kicked her." He shook his head, eyes darting. "She bumped into me." Rowan stepped forward slowly. She knelt beside Mia again, pulled up the cuff of her jeans. A red mark bloomed across the front of her shin. Clean, horizontal, unmistakably shaped. Rowan stood again. "That's a shoe tread." The Marine dad moved closer. He stepped into her personal space. "You need to calm down, ma'am." Rowan didn't step back. She didn't flinch. She simply tilted her head a few degrees, her voice smooth as glass. "Are you trying to intimidate me?" "No one's doing that," he said, voice rising. "Because if you are," she continued, "you should stop now. You're already behind." There was no threat in it, no raised fist, but something in the way she said it made everyone feel smaller. "Lady," the second dad tried again, "we didn't know she was your kid." Rowan's eyes didn't move. "You shouldn't need to." The first dad took another half step forward. His voice dropped to that stiff warning register soldiers use. "You need to lower your tone, lady." Rowan didn't move. Wrong audience. That was when he made the mistake. He reached out, hand flat, fingers just barely brushing her arm, like he meant to usher her back. Rowan moved. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't showy. It was efficient. Her right foot pivoted behind his. Her left hand caught his wrist in one fluid motion. His own momentum betrayed him. She didn't throw him so much as guide him off-center. His balance buckled. His hips slammed into the lockers with a thud that echoed down the corridor. Gasps spilled from the doorway. The teenage girl stepped backward. The boy froze. The Marine mom screamed. What the hell was that? She lunged forward. Rowan sidestepped without effort. One lean pivot. The woman stumbled past and grabbed the wall to stop herself from falling. The teenage boy stepped in now, fist clenched. But before he could move, Rowan turned her palm outward, stopping him with nothing but position. "Try it," she said softly. He didn't. He couldn't. The Marine dad pushed himself upright, breath catching. "Who the hell are you?" Rowan released his wrist with mechanical precision and stepped back. "Lieutenant Commander Rowan Calder," she said. "United States Navy SEAL, DevGru trained, 20-year record, currently attached to Naval Training Command." Silence swallowed the hallway. The PTA meeting was officially postponed. Miss Caffrey stepped out, heard the title, saw the scene, and ushered everyone into the staff room immediately. They sat there like kids waiting for detention. Two Marine fathers, side by side, looking at the floor, their wives avoiding eye contact. The teenager, who'd done the kicking, sat nearest the door, phone face down. Rowan didn't take a seat. She stood just inside the doorway, arms crossed. "We're sorry," the first dad finally muttered. Shouldn't have called her a liar. Rowan didn't answer him. She turned to Mia. "Do you want to hear them say it to you?" Mia nodded. Rowan turned back. "Then say it again." "Mia," the dad sighed. "We're sorry. It wasn't right." "We didn't know she was yours," another muttered. Rowan's voice turned to ice. "You shouldn't need to know who someone belongs to before you treat them with decency." Rowan turned back to Mia, crouching at eye level. "You spoke the truth," she said gently. "They couldn't handle it. That's not your fault." Mia leaned forward, tucking her head against her mom's shoulder. Rowan held her for 3 full seconds, then stood. And in that moment, no one in that room had any doubt who had the real authority. Outside, the air was cooler. Leaves scraped across the parking lot. Rowan and Mia walked to their car. Mia's voice broke the silence. Did I do something wrong? Rowan unlocked the car. No, you told the truth. Are you mad at them? Rowan exhaled. No, not really. Why not? Because, Rowan said, looking over at the school where the Marine dad was watching them leave, lions don't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. She started the engine. Next time someone calls you a liar, let me handle the adults. Mia smiled. They drove away, the silence in the car louder than anything the room had said. So, here is the question. What would you do if someone kicked your child for telling the truth? Do you think those parents got what they deserved? Drop your answers in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story reminded you what real discipline looks like, hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. Share this video with someone who still thinks silence means weakness. Your next mission is already on screen. Go watch it now, and I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place.